when we found this property, we'd been looking for a place for the monastery for about 10 years, and we found this school. It was an elementary school that had been closed for about 4 years, and the school district wanted to sell it. And it was perfect for us, 20 acres and the right size building. But this is a small community of about 1,000 to 1,500 people. And it's a self-identified Christian community, so we weren't so sure how would we Buddhists be received in this community. And we decided to hold a public meeting so the community could meet us and ask us questions, and we could also size up the community.
So the time came, and a few people started coming in, and then a few people more came in, and more came in, and these grim-faced, tight-looking, very unhappy people started showing up, and we ended up with 200 or 300 people.
I was at work at the hospital in Portland, and when the meeting started, and the thought was, it'll just be a little gathering, maybe 40, 50 people come at the most. We had tea and cookies and name badges for people to put on and little tables. But when I got here, the meeting was in full swing, and there were at least 200 people, all sitting in rows and chairs, very formal. Nobody wanted to put on badges or have cookies. We found out later they thought maybe it was cool. People said, don't drink anything, it might be poison Kool-Aid. So nobody drank anything, nobody had cookies, nobody would sign in or put on a name badge. They all sat in chairs facing forward. So when I got here, the meeting was going on, and my husband, Hogen, was up in front of this group.
I stood up and just started, saying a little something about our community and who we were, and what we were, that we were ethical, that we valued life, that we really appreciated, we really wanted to have a good relationship, and really wanted to work with whoever we were around, kind of those sort of things. And then I just said, well, I'd like to answer questions, and so I had a number of quite challenging questions, and I said, let me just open the floor to anybody to say anything. I don't want any person to leave here tonight thinking that they have not had a chance to express what really was in their hearts.
And I came into the back and sat down, and just at the time I sat down, this woman stood up near me, and she said, "What is wrong with you Christians? Can't you feel the aura of darkness? Can't you see the hand of Satan?" And we're looking around like, where? And then we suddenly realize, oh, she means us. And then these people are here to steal the souls of our children. And we're going, I'm thinking, oh no, we've made a really big mistake. This is not where we want to be. But then the people sitting around her, the townspeople sitting around her, rolled their eyes and sighed, and I realized, okay, well, maybe not everybody feels this way.
It was, but I just knew these are all people who were trying to, some level trying to do good, some level trying to protect their community, some level trying to have something positive happen.
So then people stood up and said things like, well, these people are welcome and we could convert them. We're thinking, oh, great. That'll be an interesting experience. But then an Iranian man stood up in the back of the audience with a pretty strong accent. He's married to a local woman, and he said, I came to this country because of the principle of religious freedom. And this country is founded on that principle, and these people have a right to be here. And then other people voiced the same sentiment, that these people have the right to be here, and we welcome them in the community. So that was a relief. After the meeting was over, we went over to try to talk to the group that had opposed us, but they wouldn't shake hands with us. They wouldn't touch us. It's very interesting. I found out later from a friend, a student who had a period of time when he was evangelical Christian, that there's a duty to testify as to your belief, and or what you feel might be the presence of the devil. So this group felt they had a religious obligation to testify that they felt we were the devil, the presence of the devil. But then, after that, there wasn't really any problem. A couple people handed out flyers and saying that we were problematic, but really no problem. And other people came up to us in the community and said, look, these people have their own beliefs, and sometimes they drive us crazy too, but if your house is on fire, they'd be the first ones there to help you out and give you food and clothing. So don't worry about it. You're welcome in the community. So we did buy the monastery, we moved in, and we gradually integrated ourselves into the community. So Hogan belongs to the Kiwanis Club. We teach marimba in the elementary school because they've lost their elementary school teacher. It's a very poor community. We help on Klatskanai Cleanup Day when everybody brings in their junk and gets to throw it away. And over the years, we've learned some interesting things about what people thought when we came. So, for instance, on a Klatskanai Cleanup Day, when our young men were down there tossing tires and old refrigerators and dumpsters, and they stopped to have some coffee and donuts, some of the older guys in town said, "Do you know when you guys first came, they said that you would eat babies and steal all our cars." Ha, ha, ha. That was very funny. So we didn't find that out for about 3 years. And we knew the key was if people could get to know us as people, that we drink coffee, that we eat donuts. The first time we showed up in the local pizza parlor, silence fell in the pizza parlor. And then somebody from the back said, "The Buddhists are here." And then conversation began again. But people were watching like, they eat pizza, Buddhists eat pizza. So step by step, just in interacting on a daily basis, they realized we're people too.
At the level of just human to human, heart to heart, there's no problem. And so that's how we have become completely integrated into this community, just human to human, person to person.
And finally, we got the description of us as good neighbors, which is the highest compliment in this area, that we were good neighbors. Because we try to, get to know our neighbors and help our neighbors, and it's very mutual. They've helped us too. So now you go forward several years to the next incident. So the next incident, we didn't put up a sign at the entrance because we were concerned that it would just be so obvious that something that people would want to tear down or do something with. So for about 2 years we put up no entrance sign. Then we had a very nice sign made that says Great Vow Zen Monastery. Put it down at the end of the driveway. And after it had been there over maybe 6 months, one morning there was a great commotion, and our young people ran down to the end of the driveway. And it turned out that 2 young men who had been involved in the Gulf War were home on leave, in their young 20s, had gotten drunk, had backed their pickup truck up to our big sign, had roped it, and were dragging it down the road, and it had been pretty badly damaged and broken in half. So our neighbor across the way had seen this and had stopped them and then called the police, the local police. So local police came out, and the police chief got out of the car, and then one of our monks realized, "Oh, wait a minute, that's the guy I played basketball with on Monday nights," because the chief looked at him, and he's 6'10", so you can't miss him, our monk. And the police chief got out of the car, looked at him, and did this motion. And then our monk realized, "Hey, wait a minute, I play basketball on Monday nights with the police chief." So the police chief arrested the guys and put them in jail. So we got a call from the county district attorney's office that they wanted to prosecute this case. They took it very seriously, not as a hate crime, but one level below a hate crime, because they felt that people should not be harassed on the basis of their religious beliefs. So we thought about it for a while, but both Hogan and I felt very strongly the same way, that we did not want to prosecute these young men. And so then an injunction was issued against them that they couldn't come onto the property. And it turned out that their fathers, because then their fathers came forward and said, "What can we do?" And it turned out their fathers were in the group that initially opposed us and was afraid of us. So now we had to meet them face to face in a situation where they owed us an apology and were asking what they could do to make this right. And we said, we don't want anything except we'd like the sign repaired. So these 2 fathers of these 2 young men took the sign and repaired it, and actually it was stronger after they repaired it than it was before. So they did a great job repairing it. And then they brought us money from the young men. They said that they felt that the young men should pay us money, and we said, no, we're not interested in money. All we want was things set back to the way they were before this happened. But meanwhile, these men had to interact with us, and we got to talk about, what's it like to have teenagers, and everybody has problems when they're teenagers, and, it's not a big deal as long as it's put back right, it's fine. And so it was great, because they got to see us as people, and we got to see them as people. And then they came to us and said that these young men were going to be court-martialed because they're in the service. And one of them wanted a career as a Army officer. So this was going to ruin his career if he were court-martialed. So we offered to write a letter to the commanding officer for these young men and say that we would prefer that charges not be pressed, that they not be court-martialed, that they be given a second chance, that they come back from the war, obviously a stressful situation, they were letting off steam, alcohol was involved, and that was a bigger issue, that to give them some counseling about alcohol rather than to court-martial them. So we wrote a letter, and I think Hogan may even have talked to the commanding officer on the telephone, and so that was the end of that. I think it seemed like it was a well-rounded solution to a problem, and so it took 3 years or 4 years and this incident to kind of bring it to full circle. But then, about a year after that, one morning, people who were coming in for our Sunday services said, "Your sign has been desecrated." And somebody had spray painted FU on our sign in orange spray paint. So we thought, okay, we don't know who did this, and we'll just not worry about it. We'll clean it up. We'll repaint the sign. But before we could get down there to repaint it, some people came in the night or early morning and they fixed it. They repainted it, painted over the swear words. So then I thought, well, we've got to thank these people, how to thank them. So I wrote a letter to the newspaper. We have this little tiny newspaper that has always long letters to the editor. They publish everything. So I wrote a little letter, and everybody reads the newspaper, and said we were so grateful to these kind fairies who came in the night and fixed our sign for us. And by the way, a couple weeks after the sign got fixed, the bottom of the sign got stolen, the sign that says that we're closed on Mondays. It had disappeared. So I thanked the kind fairies and said how grateful we were to be in this community where people would do such a kind act as to fix the sign and not even tell us who they were, and that we felt so supported in the community and so welcome in the community. And by the way, the bottom of our sign was missing, and if anybody saw it, maybe they could figure out a way to get it back, and it came back the next day. It was hanging down there the next day. So that was very effective. And then the editor, along with that, when the sign was desecrated, they got pictures of it. They didn't want to publish it because it had swear words on it, but they described it. And then the editorial described us as better Christians than many Christians. So that was like a very high compliment in this community.